Welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us because we're about to unpack a story that is, frankly, going to completely change the way you think about success, your physical abilities, and what your actions actually mean. We're diving into a deeply moving case study from a narrative called The Calligrapher of the Heavens. It's this profound exploration of art, devastating loss, and the incredible, hidden power of human intention. It's a journey that takes us from the absolute peak of artistic mastery down into the quietest, most agonizing moments of physical paralysis, and then, well, somewhere entirely beyond this physical world. Let's get into it.
So, let's start with a really heavy existential question. If your body completely fails, does your life's purpose fail right along with it? I mean, most of us tie our entire identity, our worth, and our spiritual purpose to what we can physically produce, right? What we can build or what we can do. But what actually happens when the very instrument you use to fulfill your life's calling, your own physical body, is suddenly just taken offline? This is the central crisis at the heart of our story today.
Section 1. The Fall of Vif. The sudden silence of a master's pen.
To really understand this, we need to look at the life of a man named Riyad. Before the winter of 2023, Riyad was a master of Islamic calligraphy. And we're not talking about a weekend hobbyist here. Riyad was incredibly renowned. His drawing of the Arabic letter Aleph, which is just a single straight vertical stroke, was so flawless it was said it seemed to pierce the heavens. He even contributed designs for the Kiswa, the grand black cloth covering the Kaaba. His gorgeous script decorated the walls of massive mosques. His hands were literally his connection to the divine. But then, winter 2023 hits. Riyad wakes up one morning and he can't lift his right arm. Within just weeks, the condition spreads so rapidly that he becomes completely paralyzed from the neck down. Just like that, his entire world shrinks to the movement of his eyes and his lips.
The medical reality behind this sudden devastation is a condition known as Guillain-Barré syndrome. It's a rare, incredibly aggressive neurological disorder. Basically, the body's own immune system gets confused and just starts attacking the nervous system. The onset is terrifyingly fast. For Riyad, it meant his mind, his brilliant artistic vision, and his deep spiritual devotion were suddenly locked entirely inside this motionless shell. He couldn't hold a pen. He couldn't walk. He couldn't even perform the physical postures of his daily prayers.
Now imagine the psychological and spiritual toll of that. Riyad is lying in bed, forced to just stare at his desk. He can see the exact pens that used to dance across parchment, turning ink into the words of the Quran, and now they're just gathering dust. His despair wasn't just about losing his career, It was this profound spiritual crisis. He's lying there asking himself, did Allah dislike my writing? Is that why my hands were taken away? He felt like an absolute burden, unable to even prostrate his forehead to the ground in prayer.
Section 2. Sophia's Comfort. The light in the darkest room.
Even in this overwhelming darkness, there's this incredible source of light. This brings us to Riyad's 14-year-old daughter, Sophia. She actually stopped going to school so she could sit by her father's bed and read the Quran to him. One day, Riyad just breaks down. He's weeping because he's terrified he won't even be able to be properly washed and prayed over when he dies. And Sophia, she just holds his motionless hand against her chest and tells him, "Dad, you used to write so beautifully. Angels came to watch. Now you can't move. Yet your lips move in zikr. You don't even know what your lips say when you sleep." It's such a brilliant shift in perspective. Sophia points out that his devotion hasn't stopped at all. Even paralyzed, his lips are constantly moving in the remembrance of God. She sees his unbroken spiritual connection, even when his physical body is completely broken.
Sophia's comforting words do ease his mind a bit. But when night falls, that deep, agonizing yearning returns. Riyad prays this incredibly simple prayer: "Please, let me experience the physical act of prayer, even if it's only in a dream." Which brings us to a really pivotal question. How exactly does a paralyzed man pray? Where does all that trapped burning spiritual energy actually go?
Section 3. The Pen of Light. A journey beyond the physical body.
To ground what happens next, the source text references this profound Islamic tradition. Sleep is the brother of death. It highlights that sleep isn't just, a biological resting state where your body recharges. In Islamic theology, it's a state where the soul temporarily detaches from the physical limits of the body. And on one completely normal, cold winter night, Riyad falls into a deep sleep, and his soul finally breaks free.
Think about the sheer contrast here. On Earth, we have Riyad's motionless body, completely trapped in the grip of Guillain-Barré syndrome on his sickbed. But in his spiritual reality, within his dream, Riyad suddenly finds himself standing in this endless, vibrant green field. He looks down at his hands, his legs, and he is completely 100% healed. And he doesn't just stand there, he runs. He immediately throws himself face down into the prostration of prayer he had been craving for months, weeping in a place where time completely stands still.
And watch how this builds into something even more majestic. While he's in this divine space, the sky just opens up. An angel descends, approaches Riyadh, and says to him, "You complained that you couldn't hold a pen on earth? Look at this one." The angel hands Riyadh a pen, but it isn't made of wood or metal. It is literally made of transparent, pure light. Riyadh takes it and writes Bismillah, in the name of God, right into the empty air. And the moment he does, the script expands, filling the entire sky, stamping the heavens with these brilliant starry seals. His art has completely transcended physical ink.
But then the angel tells Riyadh to look down. Through the veil of the heavens, Riyadh looks back at Earth, right into his own bedroom. He sees his paralyzed body lying there, but something unbelievable is happening. The index finger of his right hand, the hand that doctors swore was completely dead to nerve signals, is faintly, slowly tracing the words Allahu Akbar, God is great, in the air. His soul, fully alive and actively worshiping in the heavens, is sending such a powerful command that even his sleeping, broken body is physically responding to the spiritual echo. No way, right? It's incredible.
Riyadh is totally stunned. He asks the angel, "How is this possible? I couldn't move." And the angel reveals the great secret of the heavenly ledger. Let's look at this divine math, because it flips our worldly understanding of productivity completely upside down. First, the angel shows him a massive book. It says that for simply crying with the pure desire to hold a pen again, 100,000 good deeds were written to his name. Because he wept out of fear that his past work was rejected, every piece of calligraphy he ever did in his entire life was upgraded to golden ink in heaven. The angel explains that every single moment he spent in agony, feeling like a burden because he couldn't physically move to pray, was being weighed on the scales like a mountain of reward. In fact, even the simple act of a sick believer sleeping is recorded by angels as active, continuous worship.
Section 4. Philosophy of Intention. Why the yearning heart outweighs the working hand. The story of Riyadh isn't just a touching narrative, it's actually an allegorical masterclass in a very specific, powerful Islamic philosophy. To grasp this, we need to understand the concept of ar-agba. Now, ar-agba isn't just passive patience, it's a fiery, heartfelt yearning. It's the agonizing sorrow your soul feels when you desperately want to do a good deed, like painting beautiful calligraphy for God, or bowing in prayer, but you are physically absolutely incapable of doing it. The common worldly wisdom is just, be patient when you're sick. But this theology goes so much deeper than that. Let's break down how this actually builds into a framework for divine reward. Step 1. You have a pure, heartfelt desire to do a good action. Step 2. You face an absolute physical inability to execute it. Your body simply fails you. Step 3. And this is the incredible twist here. The angels don't write down failed to complete task. Instead, they record the soul's grief, the crying over the inability to do the deed, as the ultimate completed action. In the divine economy, the agony of not being able to do the work is rewarded more heavily than actually effortlessly doing the work.
And Riyadh gets to see the ultimate culmination of this philosophy. Before he wakes up, the veil lifts one last time. He looks over to a corner of heaven and sees the words he used to write on earth. But the letters of Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim aren't just ink on paper anymore. They have literally transformed into sprawling, vast green gardens in paradise. The pure ink of his intention on earth was harvested and turned into a massive physical reality in the next world. Then the dream ends. Morning arrives. Riyadh wakes up and, well, his earthly reality hasn't magically disappeared. He's still completely paralyzed in his bed. But something profound has shifted. There are tears in his eyes, but his face is washed in total peace. Safiya comes into the room and asks if he dreamt. He can barely move his lips to whisper 2 words. Yes, the pen. And as Safiya watches, she sees her father's paralyzed index finger, driven by the sheer force of his awakened soul, faintly trace a single perfectly straight vertical line in the air. An aleph. His physical pen was taken away, absolutely. But his true pen was completely unbroken.
The source material for this explainer roots this entire incredible story in a foundational verse from the Quran, Surah An-Najm, verse 39. and that there is not for man except that for which he strives. Notice it doesn't say that for which he accomplishes or that which he physically produces. It says strives. It measures the purity of the attempt, the fire of the intention, and the sincerity of the heart. The divine accounting system simply doesn't penalize you for the limitations of your biology.
Which leaves us with this final spectacular thought to reflect on today. Think about your own life. Think about your own physical or circumstantial limitations, the things you deeply wish you could do for others or for your own spiritual growth, but you simply cannot. What unfulfilled good intention, what silent yearning in your heart is currently being written down in your heavenly ledger right now as a completed masterpiece? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep learning, keep striving, and I'll see you next time.